Heather should be along.
Voila.
Live from the Plutopia News Network. This is the Plutopia Happy Hour. And our guests this evening, we have one of them already, Kevin Welch, and soon to be Heather Barfield, the couple that put the law back into ooh la la.
Oh my God.
I'm Scoop Sweeney. That's James Joy up there. Also John Lebkowski and Susie Sheeler.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, wow. So that's how we're going to start off.
Yeah, Kevin.
I'm gonna have to, like, in the future, I'm gonna have to be like, okay, I need to see a contract of what we're agreeing to say here.
Nobody agreed to ooh la la.
No, I have a strict, I got to pre-approve any ooh la las.
You have a no la la rule.
Oh, we
No
both
la
said
la.
that. Oh, no. We're just going to say the same thing all day. Okay.
I know.
Well, we should say something.
How are you, Kevin?
Hi.
It's been a while.
Yeah, how are you?
Well, I've been fine. Working from home, keeping busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was here a few weeks ago with John and Scoop, talking about the part one of, I guess, what our part two will be, which is John was like, "Hey, you guys went to France. Tell us interesting things."
Excellent. I lived in Paris for 3 years, so maybe we can talk about some cool stuff.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
How long were y'all there?
So this was the second kind of, I guess, major trip we took there, but this time, yeah, we were both there for about a month, basically all of July.
Wonderful. How wonderful. Oh, I miss it.
It's a great place.
Were you in Paris?
This trip mostly no. We the trip we took a couple years ago, we were 2 weeks in Paris. This trip was mostly exploring big hunks of France that was not Paris, as we related some of the stops and journeys in part one.
Awesome. Awesome. Have you been to, I may have missed this, but have you been in the Alps, that area of Savoie? In those areas?
We've been near certain French mountain ranges like the Luberon, but we've not really been in the Alps. No, like the Jura and the French Alps. Not really, not yet.
Not yet. You should definitely go. There's a place called Annecy, and you should go there. It is. They call it. Of course,
You feeling antsy about going to Annecy?
They
Pierre.
they call it the Venice of France, and it really is quite gorgeous.
Well, that's funny because we were down in the Marseille region, and there's a city just to the west of Marseille. I'm blanking on its exact name, that is also known as the Venice of, like, Provence, because it has canals and stuff. But it's not Annecy; it's somewhere else.
Okay, yeah.
It may not let Merkins back into France.
Yeah,
They're a little bit pissed off at us right now. So,
oh yeah,
what you guys described tonight, then you may be the last ones to talk about France.
Well, Houston is the Venice of Texas. When it's flooded.
Oh, I thought it was San Antonio with all the canals.
No, that's too legitimate.
We should say Heather is here. I just want to make sure everybody knows that Heather is here.
Yes. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Long time no see.
Hi.
And just to make clear, it is Martigues that is called the Venice of Provence.
Oh, Martigues.
Just west of Marseille.
Bon. So, where are we on part two, you guys?
Yeah, where did we leave off? You said you had a lot more you could tell us about your trip.
Well, since I've already been trying to fill time for a little bit, maybe I will let Heather set the tone of what she.
No, I'm gonna try to share some pictures. I'm getting
cool.
fancy, so Kevin can talk about. Why don't you talk about Marseille and the history of
Let me see if
Massalia?
I may have to give you permission to share. Let me check here.
Okay.
Well,
I have a lot of photos, but
I'm trying to remember how much we talked about Marseille last time. John, did we go into much detail about Marseille or no?
I don't recall you going into much detail.
Okay, I can talk a little more about Marseille. Sure.
Heather, are you able to share?
Hold on, I'm just pulling up. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I didn't see any setting I had to set. Okay, we're good.
Very good.
And I don't know, did we talk about Saint Victoire and the mountain and all that good stuff? Who knows?
I don't know. Well, you talked about part of your trip that included staying with some people that you knew in France.
Yes.
Right. And we talked about visiting Omaha Beach and what that was like.
And by you, we didn't, I think, talk about when we were talking about Normandy. We talked about almost everything. I don't think we talked about Mont Saint Michel, so we can, in theory, talk about that for.
We didn't talk about Mont Saint Michel. That's right. That'd be a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, actually,
cool.
Hey, y'all. I'm Screaming Stray. I just had a quick question since I wasn't on part one.
Yes.
And like, so are y'all like frequent travelers, or was this like a big trip, or do y'all like go to France frequently and you've gone back? I'm just like a little background maybe on sort of pre-part one, the prequel.
Well, most of our connections to France are entirely the work of Heather over years of building connections. I'm happy to let her talk about that a little bit.
Well, I was in 2019, I was a Fulbright scholar to France, and I lived in Aix-en-Provence, which is in a little north of Marseille, and it's in the Provence area of France. And I was doing work with migrant communities, doing applied theater work, and I was there for about 6 months. And then my connections with France just kept growing, and I, for whatever reason, maybe because of COVID and the pandemic, and I saw a possible window of opportunity for us to go. And if we were going to go back to France, I wanted it to be a much longer time than just like 2 weeks. So we were there for a full month.
And that's exciting. That's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that background. It gives me clear context.
I wonder if there's a way to, like, if I share my screen, if like, I don't know, I just kind of feel like it can just be, I have so many photos, and I feel like some of them really capture. Let me see if I can highlight this. Why don't you talk about Mont Saint Michel, Kevin, while I'm prepping this picture?
Sure thing.
And which is in the north, right? So we went from northern France to sort of central-ish France, and then to the south. We didn't spend any time in Paris this time.
And we didn't really go to the far east or west of the country either.
Right.
We kind of did a tour of the center from north to south.
Right.
Yep. And so, so Mont Saint Michel is one of the most famous places in all of France, and possibly outside of the things in Paris, possibly the most famous. I may not have the stat exact right, but I believe it's a major pilgrimage site in Christianity. And I actually believe it is the third biggest pilgrimage site in the world after, I think, the Vatican and Notre Dame in Paris. I think it's number 3. So it's a very, it's an ancient site that's been around for, in some form, almost 1,500 years. And it's located in Normandy, but it's right on the border of Normandy and Brittany, which is northwest France. So it's literally right on the border between the two regions. And I guess the way that a lot of Americans who've been around a while may be most familiar with it is that there was a film back in 1990 called Mind Walk, starring Sam Waterston, that is entirely it's very My Dinner with Andreas, where the whole film is just a philosophical conversation, but the film is at Mont Saint Michel. It's just people walking around Mont Saint Michel, basically having an early conversation about what would now be known as like complex systems theory, basically, and the limitations of science and the Enlightenment to solve the world's major problems, basically.
That sounds really cool. That
Yeah.
sounds like a really cool
it
thing to
actually
see.
does.
You
I
would
highly
like
recommend
that.
seeing the film if you have not seen it. It's very good.
I'll definitely check it out. Yeah. So, did you, while you were going on these trips, on these journeys, did you guys stay in like Airbnbs? Did you have, like, where did you stay? And I'm guessing, did you travel by train? I'm sure that way going through there, you'd have to probably also use a little bit of car, because there's not a lot of trains that run north south that I recall.
There is a major train line between Paris and Marseille, the bullet train, the TGV, which can get you to an American an astonishing distance in a very short amount of time. Oh yes, that is Mont Saint Michel. It is like literally this giant castle cathedral built on a rock outcropping rising out of a salt flat on the English Channel's coast there.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks like it can't be real. It looks like something out of a fantasy novel, but it is real.
Very fairy tale. It is.
I'm gonna go back and forth sharing my screen because I have like literally 10,000 photos, and I don't want all of them on YouTube just yet.
But yeah, the TGV is basically their version of a Japanese bullet train. I think it's been around since the 1980s, and yeah, it's incredibly fast by American public transit standards. It can get you between Paris and Marseille, which I guess, to put that in Texas terms, is probably like going between Corpus Christi and Dallas, or maybe even farther than that. It can get you across that distance in just like 2.5, 3 hours. So it's the way to do it, because France is about the same size as Texas. I think that's a good way to orient yourself about how big it is.
Texas is bigger than France.
Slightly, but they're in the same about approximate size.
As a Texan, having lived there, I'm gonna stand by it.
All right, I'm not in the mood to like go. I'm gonna go look up the exact square areas of square miles.
I've put France inside Texas. It's for real.
All right. I'll take your word that it is.
Wait, you put France inside Texas? I didn't see it.
No, well,
where did you put it?
Public.
I'm not seeing any evidence of the culture and sophistication that would indicate France is inside Texas.
It's got nothing. Now, wait a minute. Hold on. We got your fondue. What do you call queso? That's just fondue. I went to this restaurant when I lived in Paris called Susan's, and it was a Tex-Mex place, and it was the worst food I've ever had in my life. Ever.
I did not eat this, but Heather, on her earlier trip to France, when I wasn't there, she's told me stories of finding a place that advertised that it made like tacos and Mexican food, and like the basic verdict was, well, it wasn't bad food, but it in no way was Mexican food. Nobody would call it that.
Why would you go to a Mexican food restaurant in France? That's like going to a French restaurant in Waxahachie.
Because there are people like us out there. I mean, there was this one little bitty store that sold that it wasn't Velveeta, but it was processed cheese by the slice, and it also sold Rotel tomatoes and tortillas. It was insane. And I bought that, and I would go home and melt the cheese slice by slice, and it took forever, and it was kind of still separating, but you could make queso.
I mean, I will say, John, that, in France in general, and especially in Paris, you actually can find world-class cuisine of a lot of things you might not expect. Like there's world-class Japanese food in France, but
you just need to go out in the backyard and find some snails and get some butter.
But for whatever reason, despite having world-class food of many different cuisines, Mexican food is not one of them. Good Italian, good Japanese, but not really that great of Mexican food.
So to change the subject, back to Mont Saint Michel, because I'm going through pictures.
Yes.
So just so you saw the pictures of the, of the big kind of fortress looking thing, which is a monastery, but there's at the base of it, it's like a village, and it's a village that's been there since it was originally built, and with little town shops and square. So this is like, you would basically spiral up and upwards through these little villages, the little village stores, on your way to the actual cathedral.
To the monastery?
To the monastery,
yeah, monastery.
And they built it like a fortress to keep the groupies out?
Well, it was built to be a fortress. It actually, it was the one spot in Normandy that during the 100 Years' War, the English never managed to take it, because it's almost impossible to invade, because in addition to being a fortress, when the tide comes in, it turns into an island.
And that's what this image here is. This image is of the long bridge that they built not that long ago, actually, that goes from the mainland area here out into the bay. And when the high tide comes in, all of this gets covered in water, in the seawater.
For how long?
Until low tide.
And
so it's like daily cycles of the tides, basically.
Man.
That's the kind of majesty of Mont Saint Michel. And apparently the story is that a monk, isn't this right, had a vision that he needed to build on this, this piece of land that was like this rock that would be covered, all around it would be covered, and some of the rock would be at the top. And as he watched how the tides worked, he was like, that's where I need to put my God place. And so according to local legends, sometime in the 600s or 700s, so we're talking pre-Charlemagne here, a local a monk or bishop, I forget exactly, and I forget his name. Yeah, he had a vision of the archangel Saint Michael. Mont Saint Michel, it means Saint Michael's Mountain, which is actually another religious site in Cornwall in England. Actually, they're both dedicated to Saint Michael, and actually Saint Michael's Mountain, Cornwall, is very similar to Mont Saint Michel, where it's like a cathedral fortress on an island, but it's much smaller than Mont Saint Michel. And I guess if you're wanting other like parallels, many people think Mont Saint Michel and St. Michael's Mountain in Cornwall were some of J.R.R. Tolkien's influence for Minas Tirith. And it really does spiral up, just like in the movie Minas Tirith does with the tears. And what's even better is Heather showed you all those shops. So basically, those shops today are a gauntlet of like tourist traps, basically, except lest you think this is the modern age corrupting this sacred site. Oh no, they've always been a tourist trap to bilk the pilgrims coming there on pilgrimage for over 1,000 years.
Well,
they were designed that way.
And they're exactly. And McDonald's is now in Florence, I mean, it's like, it's horrifying. And McDonald's was up in 1990, I think, in France. It's just insane what's happened over there.
Well,
you got something against McDonald's?
The French have weirdly embraced McDonald's. They call it McDo.
Yeah, McDo.
Keep in mind that they actually have like healthier McDonald's than we do.
The food quality is way better there, because McDonald's food in the U.S. actually couldn't pass their food laws, actually, so they legally have to make it better, actually.
So I'm sure at McDonald's in France they have to fry the escargot, right?
but
I'm just going through so you can see some of the architecture. And Kevin has a lot more pictures that I still haven't uploaded. He was the one I had a really nice camera. Oh, there's my kid mask on. But this is, water's been coming out of the spigot for quite some time. So I was kind of into like little weird things like this.
Mhm.
I can relate.
Oh, and here's
Oh, yeah,
just
me too.
more of the water, anyway, I feel like I'm like doing the old sit and look at my photos business. So, I mean, we can keep talking about Mont Saint Michel, or I can find some other thing. I mean, I haven't shown you inside the cathedral, so maybe I'll fast forward in my photos and then share my screen again.
I
But
have a few more anecdotes I can
Okay,
give about Mont
good.
Saint
Yeah,
Michel,
good.
which so this is an interesting thing. So in the gauntlet of tourist trappy things at the base of Mont Saint Michel, there is a very famous restaurant. I think it's called Madame Poulard. But it's been there since the late 19th
Mère
century.
Poulard.
Mère Poulard, thank you.
Mère Poulard.
And it's been there since the late 19th century.
Yep.
Which was kind of when Mont Saint Michel began to assume its modern role as a pilgrimage and tourist site. It had, like many of France's major sites, gone through a lot of chaos during the French Revolution, and was actually briefly a prison, actually. But by the late 19th century, it had been being restored to become like a site for tourists and pilgrims. And there was a woman who started a restaurant in the little strip of shops at the little village at the base, and they make a lot of food, and I mean they're very acclaimed. They have like a Michelin star, but the thing they're like really famous for is these incredibly unique omelets, which I mean maybe you can get an omelet like this somewhere else in the world, but I've never seen any omelet like this anywhere else, because what they do is they make them in these enormous pans that they whip insane amounts of air into them, to the point where they're almost more air than egg.
Yeah.
So they take on a way different taste and consistency than a normal omelet.
How does the air taste?
I mean,
like egg.
I mean, frankly, I may say sacrilege. I didn't think it was the best omelet I've ever had. It was unique, but it wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best omelet I've ever had, but I don't regret eating it. It was very unique. But the best part is that there is a kind of French political urban legend where French presidential candidates, they often, to essentially kind of get the blessing of God, they often kick off their campaigns at Mont Saint Michel. Like they announce, I'm running for the president of France. And they frequently will go to this restaurant and eat the omelet there. And there is an urban legend that when two candidates are running for president of France from two different parties, the one who eats the omelet will win the election. The one who does not will lose. And at least for the past like 5 or 6 elections, this has always predicted the winner, actually.
Is this the thing where if you eat a 42-ounce omelet, they'll give it to you for free?
I wish. No.
Why don't they just both eat the omelet?
I don't know. Apparently nobody's been smart enough to figure that out yet. I don't know. But
wouldn't it go to the
the
one
egg
who ate
bucketing
it
board
first?
is.
I mean, if the other one ate it, I'd just be like, shit, give up. I mean, what?
I know, right?
I think I would rush to eat. I would eat the omelet before I announced.
You know what's gonna happen? Like it's gonna just get to the point where somebody's like, I call omelet, and that's it. They're not even gonna call omelet. They're just gonna call omelet and like win.
I mean, and I guess just a final thing I'll say about the restaurant that's very neat is like this restaurant is like the sort of place that like movers and shakers from throughout the 20th century have frequented this restaurant. They have like a lot of restaurants like in LA and other places, they have a wall of pictures of famous people who've eaten there, but it's kind of nuts the level of fame of some of the people that have eaten there. Like, you've got multiple famous presidents throughout the 20th century. Like they have Eleanor Roosevelt's picture on the wall with her signature. Like it's just a who's who of famous people of the 20th century.
All to eat a little egg.
Well,
it's very strange.
Let's see.
Oh my God, we were just talking about this today, Stephanie.
Eating
I
egg.
know
How much I hate eggs
And
more
we
than
had an in-depth
anything.
conversation about eggs.
It
honestly.
really
It
was.
really
It
detailed.
it went
was
on
like
for
for
I
like
love
20
eggs.
minutes on eggs.
Yeah, we both just said 20 minutes. Yes, it was insane. We were just like, neither one of us like them. But then she's like, I make
Well,
great
no,
deviled
I talked
eggs.
about.
I'm like,
I've
gross.
learned to love eggs, or I've learned to like them, but I started off not. But we have eggs, and we get like 8 a day, and it's forced me to, incorporate eggs into my life, and I've learned how to make them all the cool ways, and so
It's a nutritional bullet.
Ah,
they are. They
I'll
are. If
have to
anybody needs
invite
free
all you
eggs,
egg haters over. It'd be cheaper.
that just means y'all.
So was that La Mère Poulard?
La Mère Poulard.
La Mère Poulard.
I've actually found a page that has a bunch of a lot of information about La Mère Poulard. I see
Yep.
that they use butter, lots of butter.
I am not shocked.
Quelle
Yeah.
surprise.
Wow, this is really impressive.
There's a little
Oh
town
my God, that's
too
a
on the
huge
way.
omelet.
Yeah, I know. That's part of the
It's got
The
its own
appeal.
zip code.
And yeah, that's the thing, John, where like when you first see it, you're like, there's no way I can eat this. But it's half
I'm like,
air.
I wanna-
So it's
I
actually
wanna
nowhere
see the
near as
omelet.
filling as it looks.
Looks like a pancake.
It is kind of. It's almost more like a souffle made out of egg, than an omelet.
Got it. Okay, I'm gonna make one of those.
Noted.
boy, oh boy. What now?
Yeah, that was the big
I
thing
think
in
we talked a
Normandy
lot
we
about
didn't get to
Mont.
last
Yeah,
time.
yeah. We didn't talk about Mont Saint Michel. So we were at a little country home that I kind of don't want to show images of it because I want to respect their privacy. But what I will show you is an image of a totally French kitchen from the mom who was cooking for us. And somebody was asking where we stayed. Well, we stayed with friends, and this was the most
Wow.
luxurious. I mean, this sort of all the fresh fruits come from the region. And this is how the kitchen she cooked in, what it looked like. And this is just a sample of the kinds of, those are what just happened? I
That
don't know.
must have been
Yeah, so those are
a pretty big family to require all
yes.
that food.
Well, it's a big house. It used to be an old farmhouse that they converted into a home,
hmm
and just incredible, beauty with this lovely backyard. They had they were in the region in between Bourgogne and Champagne. And everything that they got for us for meals, and I'm going to find some meal shots in here somewhere. Everything that they got for us was like locally sourced. And I'm talking the bread was made from the wheat fields that are just like 2 miles down the street. So they have milliner, and that's for hats. They have mills for wheat. And then they had the cows making the milk, and
Wow.
and the champagne, of course, is from the region. One of the I'm trying to find some images of some of the amazing food that we ate. But what else? The fruit was so in Normandy, apples are really the thing, and so you would have lots of cider. And I'm going to just show you a picture of a kind of cider. Now, this was in central France, but cider was very popular up in Normandy, and this is just one. And then this is talk about France and food. This was like an apple tart. It's homemade. This was in Normandy. This was just some like a little bread shop in Normandy, and it says Pain Billon.
Were they really enormous and fat?
No, because you walk everywhere in France.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's not.
So they can eat bread.
Yeah, I mean, you walk everywhere. I mean, that's not all it is. It's just like so many things are naturally made, and these are just images of when we were going into the little towns, just traveling around. This is in the little village that we were at, and kind of just south of it's like an hour and a half south of Paris, and so you're just like in this beautiful countryside, and
It's
apparently I was obsessed with
it's near
this
Sens.
particular image.
Yeah, it's like in the countryside near Sens and Trieste and in that region.
And it was very mild weather for July. It was actually quite surprising how mild the weather was, and in the evenings it was very, very pleasant. And I'm for some reason I think Flickr doesn't like me being on the Zoom call and going through photos, because it's just taking forever to load the photos. But we went foraging for mushrooms. I kid you not, in a French forest with our host's father, and here's an image of the wheat. Let me share that.
He had pigs or the rigoto romagnolos. Did he have the dogs or the pigs?
The dogs or the pigs? What do you mean?
Looking for I thought you said you was looking. For
we
Oh,
were
no.
we were us. We were in the woods, and we were looking
There
for
was
mushrooms.
there was no
We were-
animal
It
assisting
wasn't
this
it
effort.
wasn't a truffle. Okay, I see.
They were looking for shrooms, but not that kind of shrooms.
Right, and we
Well, I was
found
talking
some.
Truffles specifically, yeah.
No, we didn't. No, not really truffles. Those are a bit trickier, but we were
Yeah, they are.
finding, some, and we would find lots of mushrooms, but they weren't that really in good enough shape. But to eat, like they were either a little too mushy, or they didn't have the right coloration, or they'd been there a little bit too long. But we did get a good handful of mushrooms that he then sauteed up, and we ate for dinner.
Nice.
Heather, can you make that
Make it
Flickr
bigger.
full screen? Yeah, I
I'm-
see the full screen control on there. Maybe you can.
Well, when I go full screen, it does something very strange, but I will try it
Okay.
again. I think Flickr is not very happy with the kind of full screen that we expect it to be. Plus the load time is just, it's behaving very badly.
None of this technology is ready for prime time.
None of it.
I will say, in my professional capacity as a programmer, the entire internet is held together with chicken wire, and don't let
Okay.
anyone tell you
Indeed.
otherwise.
Okay, so
I think
here,
that's good for most
this
of our
is a little bit
systems as
bigger.
well.
Mhm, mhm.
is that better? Is that a
Yeah,
little bit
that
better?
is a little better.
The
Yeah.
problem is going back and forth on the images.
Well, that's okay. You can
I stopped
undo
sharing.
the full screen to go somewhere. Yeah. I
Yeah.
understand.
This is a good example of a bit of what we talked about last time, that just like a lot of the countryside in France is way more
Those
a lot
guys
of the-
need a roof repair.
Something happened there, and they've just, I like the decrepitude in some of these places. I like the way that things deteriorate in France as much as I like them not deteriorating.
I wonder if a meteor hit that roof.
I know.
I wouldn't
those-
think of that, but I watched this
Oh, here's a
this
picture
film
of food.
by oh well. I'll talk about it later.
Oh yeah, that thing was quite good.
I think this was rhubarb.
Yeah.
It looks
That looks
great.
I'm not
delicious.
sure you can get
Yeah.
things that don't taste good in France. It's just not possible.
Fresh
I mean,
Pretty
strawberries.
true.
I mean, everything just tasted so sublime.
I think
A
like
street
I
crepe.
think like
Nectarines.
yeah, I don't think I had a truly bad meal
No,
while we were
apricots.
there.
Apricots.
I think the most I could say was that there were some meals where I thought it wasn't quite good
This
enough
is-
for how much I paid, but it still is like better food than you can get in most places in the US.
And this is breakfast.
Yum.
So there's a lot of bread and butter eating for breakfast, but this particular, we had leftover dessert stuff.
Yeah,
there.
the French have very sweet
Oh,
breakfast. They have a
and-
lot of things that I would consider dessert for breakfast.
This here is a clafoutis, which is a very well-known French dessert. It's cherries and something kind of like a pancakey mix that you bake. And this is local homemade ice cream. I'm pretty sure. Let's see if I can
Yum.
zoom in on that.
Wow, that looks
Noire, fabrication artisanale. Right. So as you can see, lots of wine glasses everywhere. I've got lots of pictures of the clafoutis. Oh, and this is a ratatouille that was made for us.
Is that rice to the left of it?
This is like a I think this was like bulgur wheat or
Oh,
like
cool.
that.
something similar. Let me see if I can.
And then it's like roasted.
Yeah, it looks a
chicken
little like
over there.
bulgur. Yeah.
And then this was this incredible sesame roast chicken that was made for us. So we had these lovely, lovely dinners. Oh, let me go back. I don't
yeah.
want to show everybody, give them some privacy. But we had these amazing meals whenever we stayed at people's houses. They would cook for us very frequently. And, you know, I know that we were like, oh, let's talk about the travel, but like, so much of the travel was a lot about the eating and the drinking.
As it always is, right?
As it always is. And
I mean, it's very easy to have like several drinks a day every day you're there because, you know,
Well,
there's a glass
It's
of
a
wine with
different-
every meal. It's very
and but it's
standard.
different too. It's a whole
Right.
different thing because you can
Right.
drink
It's not
all
about
day
it's not about
and not feel like
binging,
shit the
right.
next day.
It's not about binging, you know, it's like luxuriating.
Yeah,
Right.
you just kind of
But even so, I mean,
all day
even-
long.
but even if you have like 3 or 4 glasses at night and you've been drinking all day long, you don't feel bad the next day
Yeah,
because
you
they don't have
Yeah.
all the sulfites in it.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, here in the US, like there's a reason I tend to prefer beer or liquor over wine because wine gives me the worst
Exactly.
hangover. It's not as much of a problem there.
I think there's some I honestly heard this. I could be totally off, but I was told or learned that they have to put in a certain amount of sulfites and a certain type of sulfites into all wine that comes over from Europe or anywhere else before they can sell it to us. And it would I don't know how they would get them in there, but
Hmm.
Oh, who knows? It's kind of weird. Some wines have more than others.
mhm.
But I don't ever get a hangover anymore.
I don't either because I don't drink anymore. But I drink when I'm in Europe. When I'm in Europe, I can drink all day long.
it doesn't
and
count when you're
you
in
just
Europe.
learn to pace yourself, right?
It doesn't make me sick. It doesn't even really make me drunk. It's just really good.
You know, the secret to not getting a hangover is to just stay drunk.
Yes,
heard that works.
you just keep pushing it off farther and farther. John's sharing lifetime of experience with us.
And I'm drinking wine.
Well, some of my friends in Europe claim that the really best French wines never make it over to the United States. That they'll send some pretty good wines over, and I've had some good. I've purchased at Specs some nice French wines, but my friend said that no, they're nowhere close.
The Beaujolais Nouveau are never the same.
Well, and certainly it can't compete on price. Like I remember when we were in Orange visiting the Roman ruins, that like, you know, we're in the heart of the Rhone River Valley, you know, like the best wine in the world, and it's like, oh, here's a glass of it for €3, you know, like dummy cheap.
Well, you know, I mean, local wines are good, right? So why do we need French wines?
Oh God, yes, especially that raisin wine they make in Comfort, Texas. That's especially good.
Oh, do they make a raisin wine?
I like to get that for Christmas for people I don't like.
Well, I'll be looking see what you send me for Christmas.
I do
Get
recall-
pissed
I do
off at
recall-
me, Susie. I want to try some of that.
I recall there was some very snarky thread about like Central Texas wine on the Austin subreddit several months ago that mostly consisted of people who know a lot about wine being, this wine isn't that good. They're running a really brilliant tourist trap here.
Okay, so I have a real quick question. I mean, a quick story about that. When a friend of mine who was from Marseille, my mom had come to visit, and she and Mart were talking, and my mom said, "You know, we make wine in Texas."
Uh-huh.
And Mart said, "C'est possible."
Uh, I mean, we do, and it's it's like it's not like it's horrible, but like when you've had real wine, it's like doesn't quite hold up.
I don't know. I'm kind of a different opinion. I think you've heard that song about love the one you're with. Drink the wine you've got.
I think the thing that like a lot of the people on the thread I read were objecting to is that a lot of the wineries out there don't actually gas grow their own grapes. They bring them in from elsewhere.
Yeah,
They
there's
do. A lot of them come in
blending
from
going on
California,
out there.
actually.
Well, you're
Yeah,
talking
it's been
about
going
in
on for a
Texas?
while.
Yes, like
Well,
out near
so what's been
Fredericksburg and
happening
all
in
those
Texas?
wine resorts.
Yeah, you had a bunch of people who started wineries here who, didn't have grapes at first, but they started growing their own. And the real question in my mind is, I mean, I never know whether Texas wine I'm drinking has local grapes in it or grapes that were imported. But I do see that there's a lot of vines, there's a lot of people growing grapes. I do know of a pretty good winery near Burnett, Texas, of all places, called Perizos, that I think they grow all their own grapes, or for the most part.
Oh yeah, and
I just
I'm not
wanna
saying there
say-
aren't good wineries in the area, just that one has to do one's research.
I just want to say that we made our own wine at our house from our own peaches. We made peach wine, and I went into it with like a real attitude. I was like, oh my God. First of all, somehow it didn't occur to me that there were like other wines other than grape wine. I just didn't even know that could. And I just want to say I was extremely proud of the wine that we got. It was extremely pale, perfectly dry. Like it just had, I mean, I don't know. I was like, we did an entire case of it, and I would have put it up against any, it was a white wine, obviously, but I would have put it up against any white wine that I would have, and it turned out fantastic.
You got any left?
Really? No, we gifted 6 bottles and we drank 6 bottles. But they were, I'm just going to hold it out there. I'm not a winemaker, and I'm actually not I don't even drink anymore. But that peach wine, it blew me away. I was surprised. I had no idea
I had
do
Go ahead.
something that quality.
I had the extreme joy of no offense, Joy.
No, she's Joy.
I had the extreme joy of tasting garlic wine in California, and I must say, don't do it.
Was that at the Stinking Rose? Where in the hell would you
It
get
was
that?
at the
It sounds
Gilroy
like a Stinking Rose kind of thing.
Yeah,
That sounds mean.
and I love garlic. Anything with garlic in it, except wine. I now know.
Yeah, it seems weird.
And I smelled so bad I couldn't even go to work because at that time I worked in a place that had elevators. It's like, no, you don't want to do that. The boss is smelling. You smell like garlic bread.
I think that's why City Lights bookstore started smelling so bad as it aged, because the Stinking Rose opened up right around the corner from it. It was a huge hit, and you just walk over to the bookstore, and I just thought, oh my God, those poor people. Those poor people. That's a lot of garlic. They put garlic in every. Actually,
Yeah, I mean, after you eat at the Stinking Rose, you leave, you walk down the street, and vampires are like clutching their hearts and dying on the street.
Those are beautiful cheeses.
Oh, they are great.
Yeah, they are.
So I just wanted to point out, apparently I'm on a food trip. And by the way, there was food burning downstairs. I was like, what is that smell? And like, I think my son turned on the oven, on the stove, and like, I mean, Kevin doesn't really have a nose to smell. The house could be on fire and he can't
Oh,
smell
no.
it.
Well, it's reached the point where I'm faintly smelling it downstairs. So yes, something.
No, this whole time I was just like,
Whoa.
oh, I guess my son is like, heating something up, and then it kept getting burnt, smelly, more burnt smell. Speaking of smells, so now my house smells bad, but These cheeses, however, in France, cheese is often eaten as a dessert. It's not a before meal.
And it literally is sometimes
Practice.
given its own post main course, the cheese course.
Right. And it's usually served like what you see here. At least 6 cheeses. Oftentimes it's goat cheese, sheep cheese, and cow cheese, and a variety of soft cheeses and hard cheeses.
Yeah, and in fact, one person we stayed with when we were staying in Avignon was particularly avid about cheese, and he brought out a cheese plate that had 15, 20 different kinds of cheese on it, and I had literally never heard of I think all but maybe one of them.
Right.
I mean, France has 1,000 different kinds of cheese, most of which are associated with very hyper local specific regions of France.
That's right.
They have more cheeses than they have laws there.
That would be oh look, here's a good one of Kevin in the wheat field.
Not all of them get here, because they're so careful.
Oh yeah, no, I think I think some of you're right. A lot of the cheeses in France, you can't easily get them. You can't even pay insane amounts of money to have them shipped here. They're just not shipped out of the country.
And the reblochon that they send here is there's something real wrong with it, and they won't even ship Beaufort, which is my all-time favorite. But I mean, it's just such a drag that we get whatever prison cheese that triple cream brie, that's prison cheese. That's a powder. They make that with a powder, and I know that because I used to purchase it for Whole Foods. So I know that's true.
You've seen the man behind the curtain, and it's a powder.
Oh.
This was my favorite thing. This was my favorite thing that I ate in all of France. This is a mushroom. Oh, I keep trying to move it around. This is a mushroom quiche. Mushroom tart, rather. And that's a lot of mushroom. There's no cheese in it. I think that there's some milk in there, but it's imagine having a cream of mushroom soup, but with the best quality ingredients and into a tart. And if you're a big mushroom fan, I am. This was divine. So I just had to share that one.
Eggy?
No, there's no eggs. No eggs in that. Okay. No eggs. That was what's so incredible. And it was perfectly seasoned too. It was just the perfect amount.
Was it a bechamel maybe?
There was no cheese. There was no cheese in it. Oh, the sauce, the bechamel sauce?
Yeah.
It probably was.
Yeah. There are a number of dishes throughout the trip I had that it's, there were several dishes that it's you really just can't find them in the US. Not even at a high-end French restaurant. There's just several of them that are very regionally specific that you eat them there. I think I'm forgetting the exact name of the dish, but there's one in Normandy that it's called something like pork Normandy or something. But what it basically is it's a bunch of mashed potatoes, mixed with cream cheese and cider, and it's got bits of pork and apple in it, basically. And it's delicious. I've never seen this available anywhere except where we were in Normandy.
Exactly. And they have really specific cuisines that they are really proud of. It's when they first joined the EU, when they first started talking of joining the EU many years ago, and how that everybody was going to have to conform, and they were so territorial, and you can see it even within them. I mean, and if you want to ever know how to pull off a revolution, look at those guys. Those January 6th guys had no idea what they were doing.
No, they didn't. No, the French know how to do a revolution.
Damn right.
And yeah, another one, when we were in Aix-en-Provence, the town in Provence we were in, another dish I had that's very specific to Provence that you really can't get outside of Provence is a dish called pied paquet, which is kind of, it's basically it's a lamb dish, but it's like a bunch of lamb organ meat, like mashed up and put inside like a lamb's foot that's been cooked, basically. And so I tried it because I'm like, okay, I went in France, and so I tried it. It's actually pretty tasty. It's not like a lot of organ meat dishes that I've tried them once and been like, never again. This one was actually all right. But yeah, I don't think you can get this pied pâté anywhere but there.
You can't get pâté, the real pâté, in this country at all. And thankfully and rightfully so. But I will say, when I go over there, you eat some of it because it's so good. It's so
I don't like pâté.
Good. Well, yeah, but the stuff it's a totally different experience. It's a totally different thing.
I've had French pâté in France. No, I don't like pâté.
It is incredible.
I do like pâté, but I understand that it may not be for everyone, because it's like it's like the essence of meat concentrated into a dish.
And I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian, but when I go over there, it's like I can't not have that. I'm sorry.
I'll eat escargot. I'll eat many things. I've tried with pâté. I don't like caviar. There's things I don't like. I just don't like it.
I don't like escargot, but I like its sauce that you can dip your bread and French fries in.
I like the escargot. I like the steak tartare. I like a lot of very stereotypical French
mussels.
dishes.
Hey, how were the mussels in Marseille? And the seafood had to be crazy.
The seafood there is like the freshest seafood you've ever had.
Yeah. That would be incredible, actually.
Yeah, that was one of my very first major meals that I will never forget. There was the les moules frites. It was just, my God.
I caved and did the overpriced touristy thing, but at the Viewport, the old port, I got bouillabaisse.
Bouillabaisse.
There's these things that we've been able to get here called vegetables. Do they have those in France too?
Mini vegetables. I'm trying to find the market shot for you, but I can't find it. But at the market in Aix-en-Provence, all sorts of vegetables. I know it's a joke, but at the same time, the color at the market is you've got all the fruits in season, but in the fall, they make like these bundles of, it's like carrots, leeks, celery. They wrap it all in a bundle with parsley, and it's a soup stock. It's to make a quick vegetable soup, and you just undo the thing, maybe chop it up and undo the little ribbon, and you just throw it in a pot with water, and you're good to go.
So a vegan wouldn't starve to death in France?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Goody.
That's got a name. That's got a name, that little packet thing. I learned it in culinary school. Yeah.
Bouquet garni.
Garni. Thank you. Bouquet garni. Yeah. That's what it is. Now I remember. We also went to culinary school, she and I. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, then I guess you appreciate the food shots, because I got a lot.
Well,
a few things
that are interesting, speaking of like vegetables and vegetarian and vegan food, is like, much like here in America, it is a big kind of food there. There's a lot of restaurants that make a point of advertising that they are bio, which is basically are organic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's people laying around out there on that pier.
So this is Marseille. This is actually at Le Mucem, this big fancy architectural thing. But what you're looking at is you're looking at the Mediterranean. You're looking straight out to, you can see, if way in the distance, Africa. You can see Algiers, but it's incredible how much this Marseille is a port city, how the sea is just, it's pervasive in everything. And people just sunbathing on this little dock. And I'm going to show you a picture of the whole port, the ancient port of Marseille. And as soon as I can find it.
the old port at the heart of Marseille is, I mean, Marseille is one of the oldest cities in Europe and the world. It was founded by Greek traders as Massilia in 600 BC.
Massalia.
Massalia. So the city is, like 2,600 years old. It is ancient, the heart of the city. And yeah, it's been a prime maritime spot for like half of most of recorded history, basically.
Yeah.
And so, and it's just like, it's a city where like, it's a little, it's definitely less, international jet set touristy than Paris. Like, it has a bunch of crazy, interesting historic things in it, but they're a little less marquee. It's not like, oh, here's the Eiffel Tower, here's the Louvre. It's like, they're almost just so integrated into the fabric of the city that you don't fully notice them until like suddenly you realize, oh my God, there's this crazy epic historic thing here. Like, one thing that dominates the view of the harbor is that there are two massive, and I mean like staggeringly enormous fortresses on each side of the mouth of the harbor in Marseille. And each of those fortresses was built back in the late early 1700s by Louis XIV, because Marseille, for a lot of its history, didn't really consider itself part of France. They're like, we're independent, we're a thriving port, we don't care about being part of France. And so Louis,
they have their own song, their own national song.
Right. And so Louis literally built these two massive fortresses on either side of Marseille's harbor so that he could control the mouth of their harbor and be like, I decide what ships come in and out. You belong to me. But like, these fortresses, yeah, they're enormous. Like, I mean, I really can't do them justice. Like, you can't capture them in one picture.
Those are gorgeous. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, that's the fresh seafood platter in the Heather, what's the name of the neighborhood we were in when we got there?
This is called Le Panier district. Le Panier, it's where kind of all the artists and the freakazoids would be. So it was our kind of world. It's become kind of a touristy place, but not as bad as like some touristy places in Paris might be. So Le Panier, it's named after, the bakers and whatnot that would be in the area.
Right. And it's got a lot of like street art on like all the buildings throughout the Panier. And it's a little maze of alleys above the north side of the harbor. It's almost like a Casbah.
I am attempting to get a good shot of the port before we go. And I've got a million shots of everything else, and its flicker is being so slow. I'll show you kind of a crappy angle, because that's the fastest. I'll show you the angle from the opposite end of the port, which actually you don't see very often, because normally they take the shots from, and this gives you a good sense of how the city was sort of built around this port. So we're actually standing in an area where you see where this, what is that called, Kevin?
That's the tower of like King Rene, of Provence.
Not
like
Rene.
No, that's Rene's tower.
Okay, that's right. And then so if I were to go straight back where these little boats are, that's that area right there. That's called le Vieux-Port, the old port, le Vieux-Port. And then these are all the boats in the harbor, and they're going all out to the Mediterranean. And the story is there's two fortresses left and right in this image. And maybe Kevin can
well, that's what I was
send us
talking
off with
about.
this story.
Well,
yeah,
that's what I was talking about. The two fortresses Louis built to control the harbor.
Oh, I must have missed that while I was searching for photos.
Yes.
But the city was really built around that port. That port, that's also where the plague entered Marseille. And the port, here's a good shot.
And the port today is, as you can see, it's mostly for private citizens to dock their boats these days. The main industrial port of Marseille is now at a different spot in the city at a newer port built in the 19th century.
Oops, I didn't mean to show that shot.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that on the right there of the image, that big stone structure is one of the two fortresses that Louis built to guard the harbor. All right, well, we got 2 minutes, so I guess we need to come up with a conclusion.
Well, I mean, we really spent. I still haven't shown the images of Avignon and the festival of Avignon, which
You
was
can do
the
that
big-
next time.
Oh my
Oh yeah,
God!
we could talk about the Avignon Play Festival and devote some time to that. If
Yes,
you
we
want us
should
back to
absolutely
talk,
do a
if
third.
if you need more France content, I don't think we're quite tapped of interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, I
Yeah, and
mean,
if we run out of France content, we can always complain about the government or something.
Oh, don't get me started.
Well,
I guess
Oh,
maybe
let's
I
end on
can
a high
end
note.
with.
Let's end on a high note. Yeah.
I'll end with the Roman. Oh my gosh, we have like 30 seconds left. Here it is. Here's a good one. This is the Roman arena, still intact in Orange, France.
Oh wow.
That is a statue of Caesar Augustus looking over the stage
Wow.
there.
I'll be damned. Great Caesar's ghost.
Yeah, no, it's the most intact Roman theater in the world. The only one with that big, massive stone stage wall that has not been destroyed.
Yep.
Whoop. My alarm just went off.
your muffin's ready, John.
Muffin's ready.
Muffins are done.
We have reached the end. And obviously, we need to ask you back.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll try to have more photos prepared, but sometimes the spontaneity is good.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about here at Wayne's World. All right. So we will drop off now. And thanks, everybody. And special thanks to
y'all.
Kevin and Heather.
My
Yay.
pleasure.
It was great to talk to y'all.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
y'all.
Always
yeah.
fun. Thanks for having us.
Off we go.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.